A Canada Women's Charity Website Guide. Chapter 1. Canadian Women's Charities. Canadian Women's Charity Websites. CharityVillage.com, List of Canadian charity organizations. 4WOMENSFILMFESTIVAL.com, St. John's International Women's Film Festival, St. John's, NL. 60MILLIONGIRLS.org, Montreal, support education for girls in order to create a more just and balanced world. A Celebration of Women.org, Toronto, advocacy foundation created to house women students at safe houses. ActW.org, a commitment to training and employment for women. ActW.org, a commitment to training and employment for women, an umbrella group of agencies and programs delivering employment and training services to women in Ontario. AdsumForWomen.org, Adsum for Women and Children. Local, Halifax. AdsumForWomen.org, Halifax, Homelessness, Emergency Shelter. AirCKenya.org, African Education Resource Centre, Girls' Education in Africa. Afghan.ca, Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan, Calgary. AfricanWomenActing.org, African Women Acting. Regional, Toronto, On. AfterBreastCancer.ca, After Breast Cancer. Regional, Toronto, On. AfterBreastCancer.ca, Toronto, helps women with limited financial resources recovering from breast cancer to regain their confidence by providing them with bras, camisoles, and / or prostheses at no cost to them. AliceHousing.ca, Alice Housing. Local, Dartmouth, NS. AliceHousing.ca, Dartmouth, safe and affordable second and third stage housing for women and children leaving family violence. Amethyst-OTTAWA.org, Amethyst Women's Addiction Center, Substance Abuse. Amethyst-OTTAWA.org, Amethyst Women's Addiction Center. Anayan.org, Anjahaya Inc., Toronto. Anayan.org/home, Anjahaya Inc. Local, Toronto, On. Anisa.org, Anisa Organization of Canada, North York, On, Muslim Women and Their Families' Rights. Anisa.org, Anisa Organization of Canada. National, North York. AnnualBasketDrive.ca, Annual Gift Basket Drive, Toronto, On, making the holidays a special time for women residing in shelters across the GTA. AnnualBasketDrive.ca, Annual Gift Basket Drive. Local, Toronto, On. AntigonishWomen'sCenter.com, Antigonish Women's Resource Center, Antigonish, NS, support services and programs for women of all ages. ASAFORBrock.org, the Brock Student Sexual Violence Support Center, a safer. ASCCQ.com, Association des Seconds Epuises et Conjoints du Québec Inc., an organization for women living with or married to men who pay support to an ex-wife, in French only. AL.org, Assaulted Women's Helpline. Regional, Toronto, On. AWIDI.org, Association for Women's Rights in Development, Gender Equality, Sustainable Development and Women's Human Rights. AWIDI.org, Association for Women's Rights in Development. ARCSASA.ca, Antigonish Women's Resource Center, AWRC. Barry'sHelter.com, Women and Children's Shelter. Local, Barrie, On. BCCEWH.bc.ca, BC Centre of Excellence for Women's Health, the. BC Women's Foundation.org, BC Women's Hospital and Health Centre. Beginnings.ca, Beginnings Counselling and Adoption Services of Ontario. Beginnings.ca, Beginnings Counselling and Adoption Services of Ontario, provides services to women with unplanned pregnancies. BHF.ca, Behavioral Health Foundation, Winnipeg, MB provides long-term residential programming for people with addiction problems. BHF.ca, Behavioral Health Foundation. Local, Winnipeg, MB. BlueRidgeMountainRecovery.com. Blue Mountain Rehabilitation. Local, Collingwood. BravestOneCentre.ca Bravestone Centre Inc. Local, Winnipeg, MB. BryonyHouse.ca, Bryony House. Local, Halifax, NS. BWSS.org, Battered Women's Support Services, Vancouver, BC. CAAWS.ca Canadian Association for the Advancement of Women in Sport and Physical Activity. CAAWS.ca, Canadian Association for the Advancement of Women in Sport. CAFCC.on.ca, Coordinated Access for Child Care, the official site for CalgaryWomen'sShelter.com, Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter. CanadianWomen.org, Canadian Women's Foundation, CWF. CARAL.ca Canadian Abortion Rights Action League, Canada's pro-choice, volunteer organisation working to ensure that all women have total reproductive freedom to exercise the right to safe, accessible abortion. CARAL.ca, Canadian Abortion Rights Action League, CARAL. CarltonPlace.ca, Carlton Place Women's Business Group. CASAC.ca, Campbell River Women's Sexual Assault Centre, the CASAC.ca, Canadian Association of Sexual Assault Centres, APAN. CauseWeCare.org, Cause We Care Foundation. Local, Vancouver, BC. CBCF.org Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation. CBCF.org, Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation. cbcf.org/prairies/pages/default.aspx, Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation. cbcf.org/prairies/pages/default.aspx, Prairies and Northwest Territories Chapter. ccmw.com Canadian Council of Muslim Women. ccmw.com/chapters, Canadian Council of Muslim Women. cdnwomen.org Canadian Women's Foundation, National Public Foundation for Women and Girls, Grassroots Women's Groups. cefso.ca, Council of Elizabeth Fry Societies of Ontario, Prison Reform. cefso.ca, Council of Elizabeth Fry Societies of Ontario. centreculturalJoliet.com/new/rdfso.htm, Réseau des Femmes du Sud de l'Ontario. cfjl.org Canadian Federation of Junior Leagues, an organization of women committed to promoting volunteerism. cfjl.org, Canadian Federation of Junior Leagues. cfuw.org Canadian Federation of University Women. cfuw.org, Canadian Federation of University Women. charlesfordhouse.ca Charlesford House Society for Women, Burnaby, BC, a supportive recovery home for women coping with the first stage of substance abuse recovery. charlesfordhouse.ca, Charlesford House Society for Women. Regional, Burnaby. Children who have experienced family violence. choicesadoption.ca, Choices Adoption and Counseling Services, Victoria, BC, a licensed professional, non-profit, non-sectarian counseling and adoption agency providing services to birth parents, free counseling, adoptees and adoptive parents throughout BC and across Canada. choicesadoption.ca, Choices Adoption and Counseling Services. ciwa-.com, Calgary Immigrant Women's Association, CIWA. ciwa-online.com, Calgary Immigrant Women's Association, Calgary. cobalt.golden.net/edac, Eating Disorders Awareness Coalition of Waterloo Region, Kitchener. creative-alternatives.ca Creative Alternatives of Montreal, Arts to Promote Growth. criaw-icref.ca, Canadian Research Institute for the Advancement of Women, Ottawa, a research institute that provides tools to facilitate organizations taking action to advance social justice and equality for all women. criaw-icref.ca/n, Canadian Research Institute for the Advancement of. cw4wafghan.ca, Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. CWEN.ca, Canadian Women's Health Network. CWEN.ca, Canadian Women's Health Network. DonCanada.net, Disabled Women's Network of Canada. DonCanada.net/n, Disabled Women's Network, Don. Donhouse.net, Donhouse, Kingston, On. Donhouse is a 24-hour emergency shelter offering temporary accommodation for women and children who are experiencing a housing crisis. Donhouse.net, Donhouse. Local, Kingston, On. DigitalLeave.org, a global, non-profit organization for women in new media and digital technology. digitalleave.org/chapters/hamilton/index.htm, Hamilton, On. digitalleave.org/chapters/Kitchener-Waterloo/index.php, Kitchener-Waterloo, On. digitalleave.org/chapters/Ottawa, Digital-Leave, a global, non-profit. digitalleave.org/chapters/Vancouver/index.htm, Vancouver, BC. digitalleaveottawa.com, Ottawa, On. digitalleavetoronto.com, Toronto, On. discoveryhouse.ca, Discovery House, based in Calgary, Discover House. dixonhouse.ca, Marguerite Dixon Transition Society, Burnaby, BC, a transition house and a second stage program for abused women and their children. dixonhouse.ca, Marguerite Dixon Transition Society. Local, Burnaby. domesticabuseservices.ca, Domestic Abuse Services. Local, Vancouver. dressforsuccess.org, Dress for Success Halifax, Regina, provides interview suits, confidence boosts, and career development to low-income women. dressforsuccess.org, Dress for Success Halifax. drrozashealingplace.com, Dr. Roz's Healing Place. Local, Toronto, On. Eating Disorders Coalition.ca, Eating Disorders Awareness Coalition of. eatingdisorders/about-eating-disorders-nova-scotia, Eating Disorders. e-d-a-g.com, Eating Disorders Action Group, Halifax, NS, a community-based charitable organization dedicated to promoting healthy body image. edmontonkinets.ca, Kinet Club of Edmonton, Edmonton, epub, women's volunteer organization. edmontonkinets.ca, Kinet Club of Edmonton. efryottawa.com, Elizabeth Fry Society of Ottawa, Prison Reform. efryottawa.com, Elizabeth Fry Society of Ottawa. efsmanitoba.org, Elizabeth Fry Society of Manitoba, Winnipeg, Women in Jail. efsmanitoba.org, Elizabeth Fry Society of Manitoba. Regional, Winnipeg. Elizabeth Bagshaw Clinic.ca, Elizabeth Bagshaw Women's Clinic, Vancouver, BC, Reproductive and Abortion Services. Elizabeth Bagshaw Clinic.ca, Elizabeth Bagshaw Women's Clinic. Local. ElizabethFry.ca, Canadian Association of Elizabeth Fry Societies, a federation of autonomous societies which works with women involved with the justice system. ElizabethFry.ca, Canadian Association of Elizabeth Fry Societies. ElizabethFry.com, Elizabeth Fry Society of Greater Vancouver, Prison Reform. ElizabethFry.com, Elizabeth Fry Society of Greater Vancouver. EndExploitation.org, Action to End Exploitation, Toronto, a not-for-profit organization committed to helping victims of human trafficking and sexual. EqualVoice.ca, more women must be elected to every level of government in Canada. EqualVoice.ca/index.cfm, Equal Voice. National, Ottawa, On. Ernestines.ca, Ernestines Women's Shelter. Local, Etobicoke, On. Exploitation. FemInternational.org, Fem International. International, Montreal, QC. feminternational.org/en/main.htm, Fem International, Montreal, empower young girls and women around the globe to discover their potential as individuals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders through the dynamics of socially responsible entrepreneurship. FGWRC.ca, Fort Garry Women's Resource Centre, Winnipeg, MB. FGWRC.ca, Fort Garry Women's Resource Centre. Local, Winnipeg, MB. Fitspirit.ca, St. Jerome, QC, a non-profit organization that offers young girls between 13 and 17 years of age tangible ways of motivating them to adopt an active, healthy, and well-balanced lifestyle. Fitspirit.ca, Fitspirit. Regional, St. John and Auxerre, ME, QC. Francophone Women, which also has an accompanying service for the Toronto area. FullStopNow.org, British Columbia, a world without injustice against women and girls. FWE.ca, Forum for Women Entrepreneurs, Vancouver, BC. FWE.ca, Forum for Women Entrepreneurs, BC. Regional, Vancouver. FWIO.on.ca, Federated Women's Institutes of Ontario, Guelph, on. FWIO.on.ca, Federated Women's Institutes of Ontario, FWIO. get-on-track.net/get-involved, on-track career and employment services. JilliansPlace.com, Jillian's Place. Local, St. Catharines, on. GIRLSINC-UPPERCANADA.org, Girls Incorporated of Upper Canada, GIUC. GIRLSINC-UPPERCANADA.org, Girls Incorporated of Upper Canada, GIUC, Brockville, on, inspires girls to be strong, smart, and bold by providing mentorship and skills development. GirlsOnTheRun.ca, Girls on the Run Ontario, Ontario, after-school program for 3rd through 8th grade girls. GirlsRockCampMississauga.org, Girls Rock Camp Mississauga, Mississauga, on. GirlsRockCampMississauga.org, Girls Rock Camp Mississauga. Regional. GirlsRockCampVancouver.ca, Girls Rock Camp Vancouver, Vancouver, BC, female youth age 8 to 18 music creation. GirlsRockCampVancouver.ca, Girls Rock Camp Vancouver. Regional. Guelphy.com, Guelph, on. HavenSociety.com, Haven Society, Nanaimo, BC, the integrity and safety of women, children, anti-violence organization. HavenSociety.com, Haven Society. Regional, Nanaimo, BC. HopeNowFamilyConcepts.org, Hope Now Family Concepts, Inc. National. HouseOfSophrosign.com, House of Sophrosign Recovery Programs for Women, Windsor, on. HouseOfSophrosign.com, House of Sophrosign Recovery Programs for Huronia TransitionHomes.ca, Huronia Transition Homes, Midland, on, services for women across Simcoe County, La Maison Rosewood Shelter in Midland, Athena's Sexual Assault Counseling and Advocacy Center in Barrie. Huronia TransitionHomes.ca, Huronia Transition Homes. Regional, Midland. IAAW.ca, Institute for the Advancement of Aboriginal Women, Edmonton, IAB. IAAW.ca, Institute for the Advancement of Aboriginal Women. National. IMPREGNANT-NOW.org, Hope Now Family Concepts, Inc., Beauséjour, MB, an interdenominational organization providing free of charge housing, education to women with unplanned pregnancy. InFactCanada.ca, InFact Canada, Toronto, on, protect infant and young child health through the promotion of breastfeeding. InFactCanada.ca, InFact Canada. National, Toronto, on. InspirationStudio.org, Inspiration Studio, Toronto, on, a women's art entrepreneurial initiative that helps disadvantaged women supplement their income through the sale of their own handcrafted ceramic artwork. InspirationStudio.org, Inspiration Studio. Local, Toronto, on. inspireart.org/en/creative-alternatives-creative. interimplace.com Interim Place, Mississauga, on shelter and community support and outreach programs for women and children experiencing and/or fleeing violence. interimplace.com, Interim Place. Local, Mississauga, on isisters.org iSisters Technology Mentoring. Regional, Ottawa, on iwchamilton.ca. Immigrants Working Centre. Local, Hamilton, on genetweed.com Genetweed Centre, Toronto, on a non-medical, community-based substance abuse and problem gambling treatment facility for women in Ontario. genetweed.com, Genetweed Centre. Local, Toronto, on jledmonton.org Junior League of Edmonton, an organization of women committed to promoting volunteerism. jledmonton.org, Junior League of Edmonton, an organization of jlt.org Junior League of Toronto. jlt.org, Junior League of Toronto, a women's organization that strives. julietsplace.org Juliet's Place, Scarborough, on safe refuge for abused women and their children. julietsplace.org, Juliet's Place. Local, Scarborough, on jwicanada.com Jewish Women International of Canada, Toronto, on ending violence against women in our communities through education, awareness, and programming. jwicanada.com, Jewish Women International of Canada, JWIC. kamloopsie.org, Kamloops, BC. KingstonCPC.org Kingston Crisis Pregnancy Center, Kingston, on KingstonCPC.org, Kingston Crisis Pregnancy Center. Local, Kingston. LadyCove.ca, Lady Cove Women's Choir, St. John's, NL. LadyCove.ca, Lady Cove Women's Choir. Local, St. John's, NL. Leaf.ca Leaf Women's Legal Education and Action Fund, presenting arguments in legal cases where women's rights are at risk. Leaf.ca, Leaf, Women's Legal Education and Action Fund, Leaf. LeanInCanada.com. Lean in Canada. National. LibraHouse.ca/en LibraHouse, Happy Valley Goose Bay, NL, a crisis shelter for women and their children affected by abuse. LibraHouse.ca/en LibraHouse. Regional, Happy Valley Goose Bay. LifeRecovery.ca, LIFE. Recovery. Local, Vancouver, BC. LifeRecovery.ca, Vancouver, BC, rehabilitates women with drug and alcohol addictions and encourages them to live a Christian lifestyle. Maison d'Amity.ca Maison d'Amity, Ottawa, on Francophone shelter located in the Ottawa, on area, women victims of violence. Maison d'Amity.ca, Maison d'Amity. Local, Ottawa, on Margaret's.ca, Margaret Fraser House. Local, Toronto, on margueritecentre.ns.ca Marguerite Centre, Halifax, NS, a long-term residential facility for women recovering from addictions and abuse. Marilacplace.ca Marillac Place, Kitchener, on safe housing to women between the ages of 16 and 25 who are pregnant, who have their child or children in their care or who are attempting to regain care of their child or children. Marillacplace.ca, Marillac Place. Local, Kitchener, on matchinternational.org, Match International Center, established in matchinternational.org, Match International Center international development agency devoted exclusively to promoting women's equal participation in development. moz.mb.ca/index.htm, Manitoba Association of Women's Shelters, Selkirk. Metrac.org, Metrac, a non-profit charitable organization that Metrac.org promotes the rights of women and children to live free from violence. mgam.gobot.com, Mom God and Me, affordable home ownership and housing opportunities, Southwestern Ontario. mgam.gobot.com, Mom God and Me, Mom God and Me Create. Microskills.ca Community Microskills Development Center, Etobicoke, ON, a non-profit organization that provides training, settlement, employment, and self-employment services to immigrants, visible minority, low-income people. Microskills.ca, Community Microskills Development Center missionservices.ca/shelter-program/Rotholm-women's-family-shelter, missionservices.ca/shelters-a-program/Rotholm-women's-and-family-shelter, Rotholm, Women's and Family Shelter. Namati.com, Montreal, dedicated to improving the quality of life for women, children, and families in Israel. Namati.com, NAMAT Canada. International, Montreal, QC. NAEL.ca National Association of Women and the Law, promotes the equality rights of women through legal education, research, and law reform advocacy. NAEL.ca, National Association of Women and the Law, NAWL. Nellies.org, a non-profit women's organization based in Toronto, Ontario, helping women and children in crisis locate safe, affordable housing, support services and a bridge to a better future. Nellies.org, Nellies, a non-profit women's organization based in Newcomerwomen.org, Newcomer Women's Services Toronto, Toronto, ON, Newcomer Women's Services Toronto, promotes the social, economic, and cultural integration and personal well-being of women and their families who are new to Canada. Newcomerwomen.org, Newcomer Women's Services Toronto. NextLevelLeadership.ca, Next Level Leadership. Regional, Ontario. NewCoco.org, Ottawa, ON, a youth-led, Canadian non-profit organization that believes in education as a means to empowerment, make education more accessible by breaking down the physical and cultural barriers. NewCocoEducation.org. NewCoco. International, Mississauga, ON. NYWC.org North York Women's Centre, Programs and Services to Women. NYWC.org, North York Women's Centre, provides free programs and NYWS.ca North York Women's Shelter, Toronto, ON. The North York Women's Shelter is a safe refuge for abused women and their children. Shelter exists to provide safety, short-term crisis counseling, advocacy, referral and support for abused women and their children. NYWS.ca, North York Women's Shelter. Local, Toronto, ON. OasisFemme.org Oasis Centre des Femmes, Toronto, free services for French-speaking women 16 years and over, 877-336-2433 or 1-866-860-7080, TTY. OasisFemme.org, Oasis Centre des Femmes. Local, Toronto, ON. Ofacan.com Opportunity for Advancement, supporting women to achieve greater economic sufficiency. Ofacan.com, Opportunity for Advancement, works with women in Oil City Derby Girls.ca Oil City Derby Girls, Edmonton, an all-female run, non-profit roller derby league. Oil City Derby Girls.ca, Oil City Derby Girls. Local, Edmonton, epub. OlderWomen'sNetwork.org Older Women's Network, Toronto, ON. The Older Women's Network works to achieve a caring society in which older and midlife women have the opportunity to live in security and with dignity. OlderWomen'sNetwork.org, Older Women's Network. Regional, Toronto. OneFamilyLaw.ca, Family Law Education for Women. Regional, Toronto. Aurelia and Barry. DressForSuccess.org, Dress for Success Aurelia and Barry. OurAfricanDaughters.com, Rescuing Our African Daughters /Secor Auxiliary Junes. OWIT.org. Organization of Women in International Trade, OWIT. OWITAlberta.org Organization of Women in International Trade, Calgary, epub. aujn.org Ontario Women's Justice Network, Toronto, ON, a legal resource for women's organizations and individuals working on issues related to justice and violence against women and their children. aujn.org, Ontario Women's Justice Network. Regional, Toronto, ON. PACE-SOCIETY.org, Prostitution Alternatives Counseling Education, PACE. Paro.ca Northwestern Ontario Women's Community Loan Fund, Thunder Bay, ON. Paro.ca, Paro, a Northwestern Ontario Women's Community Loan Fund. PathsSK.org, Provincial Association of Transition Houses and Services of. POCTUUTIT.ca, Pakshuati Inuit Women of Canada, Ottawa, ON. Pakshuati fosters greater awareness of the needs of Inuit women. POCTUUTIT.ca, Pakshuati Inuit Women of Canada. National, Ottawa. PCYMCA.ca, Pictou County, NS. PetitesMains.com, Petites Mains. Local, Montreal, QC. PinkTulip.ca, Pink Tulip Foundation, Toronto, provide girls with information, awareness, and education on the subject of breast cancer prevention. PPDA.ca, Perinatal Mood Disorders Awareness Ltd. National. PromotionPlus.org, participating in physical activity and sport in the province of British Columbia. PromotionPlus.org, Promotion Plus, our vision is to ensure that all girls. Providing free services and support to women and children. PSSA.org, Peer Support Services for Abused Women, a non-profit. Ramath.ca, Ramath Life Center, Mount Forest, ON, a cooperative living residence serving young women who are pregnant or parenting a child under 1 year of age. Ramath.ca, Ramath Life Center. Local, Mount Forest, ON. RapeReliefShelter.bc.ca, Vancouver Rape Relief and Women's Shelter. Regina.dressforsuccess.org, Dress for Success Regina. Local, Regina. Regina Sexual Assault Center.ca, Regina Women's Community Center. Local. ReginaWomen'sCenter.com, Regina Women's Community Center, Regina, SK, feminist, pro-choice organization dedicated to working toward a nonviolent and equitable society by empowering individuals who experience RESEAU-FEMMES-SOO.com, Réseau des Femmes du Sud de l'Ontario, they. RichmondWomen'sCenter.bc.ca, Richmond Women's Resource Center. RichmondWomen'sCenter.bc.ca, Richmond Women's Resource Center. ROSENET-CA.org, legal information to women who are being abused by their partners or spouses. ROSENET-CA.org, RoseNet, this site gives legal information to women. StJohnny.com, St. John, NB. SaveTheMothers.org, Ancaster, ON, Health and Dignity of Mothers and Children in Developing Countries. SaveTheMothers.org, Save the Mothers. International, Ancaster, ON. Scarborough Women's Centre.ca, Scarborough Women's Centre. Scarborough Women's Centre.ca, women wanting to leave an abusive or isolating situation. SCHLiferClinic.com, Barbara Scully-Fetter Commemorative Clinic, The Clinic. ServantsAnon.com, Servants Anonymous Society of Calgary, IN. ServantsAnon.com, Servants Anonymous Society of Calgary, an umbrella organization that gives an opportunity to those female ex-street youth who genuinely want to make a change in their lives and who desire to become productive members of the community. SFWomen'sServices.com, South Fraser Women's Services Society, Surrey, BC. SFWomen'sServices.com, South Fraser Women's Services Society. Shelternet.ca/splashpage.htm, Shelternet for abused women. Sidelines.org, Sidelines Canada Prenatal Support Network, a national. SidelinesCanada.org, Sidelines Canada Prenatal Support Network, support to women with complicated pregnancies across Canada. SingleMothersInProgress.org, Brampton, on, Single Mothers in Progress, give single mothers the opportunity to provide more stable, safe, and organized homes for their children. SingleMothersInProgress.org, Single Mothers in Progress. Local, Brampton. SingleWomenInMotherhood.com, Single Women in Motherhood. SJWomenCentre.ca, St. John's Status of Women Council. Local, St. John's. SJSWC.ca, St. John's Status of Women Council, St. John's, NL, promote the social, economic, and personal equality of all women. Soroptimist International of Western Canada is a global voice for women working through awareness, advocacy, and action. SoroptimistGrandErie.ca, Soroptimist International of Grand Erie. Southwest Safe Shelter.shelternet.ca, Southwest Crisis Services, Swift Current, SK. SpectraSupport.org, Spectra Community Support Services, the Peel Postpartum Family Support Line, 905-459-8441. SpectraSupport.org, Spectra Community Support Services. SDClaren.com, Toronto, on, Shelter for Homeless Women aged 35 to 60 with mental health issues. SDClaren.com. St. Clair Inn. Local, Toronto, on. SDJosephWomen.on.ca, Immigrant Women's Centre, Hamilton, on. StreetHaven.com, services which will improve the quality of life of women in need and bring creative solutions to. StreetHaven.com, Street Haven, Street Haven at the Crossroads goal is support Aboriginal women and their children in their efforts to maintain their cultural identity, emergency shelter. SwanNetwork.com, Swan. Local, North Vancouver, BC. swcrisis.ca/home.html, Southwest Crisis Services. Regional, Swift Current. That'sWomen'sWork.com, That's Women's Work Arts Network, Toronto, on. thatswomenswork.wix.com/thatswomenswork, That's Women's Work Arts. The Southern Ontario Francophone Women's Network is an Ontario provincial emergency line for their problems. TheMargueriteCentre.com, The Marguerite Centre. Regional, Lakeside. TheOliveBranch.ca, The Olive Branch of Hope. Regional, Toronto, on. TheOliveBranch.ca, Toronto, The Olive Branch of Hope Breast Cancer Support Services. TimesChange.org, Times Change Women's Employment Service, Toronto, on. TimesChange.org, Times Change Women's Employment Service. Local. Training Centre, Calgary, epub. UACWA.com, United African Canadian Women's Association, Halifax, NS, improving the welfare of immigrant women's families as they make their new home in Canada. UNPAC.ca, United Nations Platform for Action Committee Manitoba, Unpack. UNPAC.ca, United Nations Platform for Action Committee Manitoba, promote equality, equity, and empowerment for women in Manitoba. Various forms of violence and abuse. VictoriaE.com, Victoria. Villarosa.mb.ca, Villa Rosa Inc., Winnipeg. MB provides transitional housing, life skills, and education in a healthy environment for women in need during and after pregnancy, located in Winnipeg. Villarosa.mb.ca, Villa Rosa Inc. Regional, Winnipeg, MB. 6WBN.org, Vancouver Island Women's Business Network, R. 6WBN.org, Vancouver Island Women's Business Network. VSW.ca, Vancouver Status of Women, works with women to ensure. VSW.ca, Vancouver Status of Women. WaveW.ca, Women Against Violence Against Women Rape Crisis Center. WBGroup.ca, Women's Business Group, Carleton Place, on. This organization serves to provide a support network for women in business, employed or self-employed. WCSoroptimist.org, Soroptimist International of Western Canada. wcsoroptimist.org, Soroptimist International of Western Canada. wesrorelief.faithweb.com Women of Excellence Support and Relief Organization, Toronto, ON. This organization's mission is to work towards the elimination of barriers faced by women and children living in poverty as well as helping abused women to stabilize and improve their lives. wesrorelief.faithweb.com, Women of Excellence Support and Relief. westcoastleaf.org, West Coast Leaf. westcoastleaf.org, West Coast Leaf. westminsterhouse.ca, Westminster House Recovery Centre for Women, New Westminster, BC, abstinence-based residential treatment centre for women located in the heart of New Westminster, BC. westminsterhouse.ca, Westminster House Recovery Centre for Women. whsbg.on.ca, Women's House serving Bruce and Gray. Regional, Kincardine. WIFT.com, Women in Film and Television, Toronto, helps members in. WindsorLifeCentre.com. Windsor Life Centre. Local, Windsor, ON. WingsOfProvidence.ca, Wings of Providence Society, Edmonton, epub. The mission of Wings of Providence is to provide comprehensive transitional programs and independent living in a safe, secure, supportive and healthy environment for women with. WingsOfProvidence.ca, Wings of Providence Society. Local, Edmonton. WiredWoman.com, Wired Woman in Communications and Technology. WiredWoman.com, Wired Woman Society, Technology Sector. WISAT.org, Women in Global Science and Technology, promotes. WISH-VANCOUVER.net, Wish Drop Center Society. Local, Vancouver. WomeninLeadership.ca. WomeninLeadership.ca, Women in Leadership Foundation. National. WomensBookstore.com, Toronto Women's Bookstore, Toronto, ON. WOMENS-CENTRE.org Women's Centre of Calgary. WOMENS-CENTRE.org, Women's Centre of Calgary, the Women's Centre. Women's Economic Council.ca, Women's Economic Council. National, St. Women's Film Festival.com St. John's International Women's Film Festival. International, St. WOMENS-HABITAT.ca, Women's Habitat. Local, Etobicoke, ON. Women'sHealthClinic.org, Women's Health Clinic, Winnipeg MB. Women'sHealthClinic.org, Women's Health Clinic, Winnipeg MB. WomenVoters.ca Canadian Women Voters Congress, Vancouver, BC. WomenVoters.ca, Canadian Women Voters Congress. National, Vancouver. WorkingWomencc.org Working Women Community Centre, Toronto, ON. Working Women Community Centre provides immigrant women and their families with opportunities to improve the quality of their lives through self-development and community action. WorkingWomencc.org, Working Women Community Centre. Local, Toronto. WRED.org Women and Rural Economic Development. WRED.org Women and Rural Economic Development, this non-profit. YDayFommTL.org, Montreal, QC. YellowBrickHouse.org Yellow Brick House, emergency shelter for abused and homeless women and their children. YellowBrickHouse.org, Yellow Brick House, operates an emergency. YMCAHBB.ca/join-the-YMCA/Brantford-family-YMCA/how-to-join target =new. YMCA-Okanagan.ca, Central Okanagan, BC. YMCA-YWCA.ca, National Capital Region, ON. YMCA-YWCA.mb.ca, Winnipeg, MB. YorktownFamilyServices.com, Yorktown Family Services, Toronto, ON. Yorktown Family Services is a community-based non-profit social services agency dedicated to providing mental health treatment, prevention, and outreach services to children, youth, women and families. YorktownFamilyServices.com, Yorktown Family Services. Local, Toronto. YRVAWCC.ca, York Region Violence Against Women Coordinating Committee. YWCA-Banff.ab.ca, Banff, epub. YWCA-Brandon.com/Brandon, MB. YWCA-Cambridge.ca, Cambridge, on. YWCA-Canada.ca, YWCA Canada. YWCA-Canada.ca, YWCA Canada, a voice for equality and a strong. YWCA-Halifax.com, Halifax, NS. YWCA-Hamilton.org, Hamilton, on. YWCA-Niagararegion.ca, Niagara Region, on. YWCA-NWT.ca, Yellowknife, NT. YWCA-of-Calgary.com. YWCA-of-Calgary.com, Calgary, epub. YWCA-of-Calgary.com/trades, YWCA skills. YWCA-of-Edmonton.org, Edmonton, epub. YWCA-Peterborough.org, Peterborough, on. YWCA-PrinceAlbert.ca, Prince Albert, SK. YWCA-Regina.com, Regina, SK. YWCA-Saskatoon.com, Saskatoon. YWCA-StJohns.com, St. John's, NF. YWCA-Sudbury.ca, Sudbury, on. YWCA-Toronto.ca, Greater Toronto, on. YWCA-Toronto.org, Toronto, on. YWCavan.org, Vancouver, BC. YWIB.ca, Young Women in Business Network for Emerging Female Leaders in Western Canada. YWIB.ca, Young Women in Business Network, IWIB.